Hello, colleagues. Dr. Stephanie Noriander here with a video presentation on moving your speaking assignments online. I'm speaking to you as the Director of Communication across the curriculum and offering some support and additional resources that complement the work that you are doing, likely with the CTL, and using other resources to move your courses online. I want to talk to you today specifically about some considerations that may help you as you move student presentations that you typically would have done face-to-face into an online format. As we do that, I want to first talk about some guiding principles that apply to your entire course and also specifically to individual assignments like your presentation assignment. So picking up on the messages that we have been receiving from our provost and from the university at large, we know that this is a time that's unprecedented, and it's a time that we need to preface kindness and flexibility and compassion. So I call these principles broadly moving online with compassion, and these are things that will help guide your decision making as you shift your assignments moving forward. So the first principle is to acknowledge the change and disruption that we're all living with at the current moment. And think about the plans that you had for the class, right? And in particular, a presentation assignment was probably well detailed, and you envisioned the way that your students would do this in class, and they would have that experience of the live audience, and so on and so forth. And just acknowledge that it's okay to be disappointed that that's not going to happen, that you need to shift this to an online format. But also, don't fear, be hopeful that this can still be a meaningful learning experience with the right changes and some critical decisions made about what to keep and perhaps what to let go of. Also, keep in mind that we want to maximize supportive communication at this time. So with our students, with each other, with ourselves, we want to remind, especially our students, that we're here to support them, and the decisions that we're making are in that spirit. We don't have a perfect process. We probably don't have this all worked out, but the shifts and the tweaks that we're making are not meant to make things more complicated. In fact, we want to support them in completing the semester and completing it successfully. And with that in mind, our main goals are to aim for flexibility and accessibility. And I can't emphasize this enough. And again, this has been emphasized from the top down in the messages that we've been receiving about teaching and about the shifts we're making, is that maximum flexibility is the right choice at this time. And that's because we are living amid these disruptions and these changes. But if you are feeling like, gosh, I'm not sure if I'm doing enough, or I feel like I should add more to this assignment, or I'm just not quite, I feel unsure about this online landscape in general, that's absolutely okay, and it's absolutely normal. But know that you have the right and are in fact encouraged to make the decisions that maximize flexibility for your students and for yourself. And that is because we are all dealing with a rapidly changing situation, child care, family care, whatever the case might be, our workplace is changing, so on and so forth. And so we want the semester to continue, and we want our students to finish successfully, and we need to offer maximum flexibility within that. And then finally, minimizing friction and really minimizing the learning curve for students in terms of technology. So making the choices that keep our assignments simple and focused. So with that in mind, I want to talk to you a little bit specifically about presentation assignments. So I'm talking about the types of assignments where you would have students present either on a project or a paper, or perhaps it is the presentation, whatever it was, you were having them present using their public speaking and oral communication skills. We're talking about how to move those online. So the first step is to take a look at your original assignment and review those learning goals. what were the critical elements? Okay, what did that look like? And what is most important? So if you think in terms of, okay, this is going to be a weird semester for all of us, right? And the learning is going to look a lot different than it would in a typical semester. That's okay. That's part of that change and disruption that we're acknowledging. But if we take a look at that assignment and say, what was the most important piece? What at the end of the day, or is the most important piece, what do I want my students to take away, if nothing else, right? What is the meaningful impact that this could possibly have given the current circumstances? And identify one, maybe at the most, two critical elements. So let me give you a few examples. For some faculty whom I've been talking with over the past week, the most critical element, what they really want students to walk away with at the end of the semester by having done this assignment, is they want them to have experience really organizing that content, right, in a particular way, putting together a strong purpose statement for their presentation, organizing their main points, and they really want that to shine through, and they want them to present that orally. For others, it's maybe the emphasis is more on the delivery. They want students to really get experience with that vocalized, that physical, verbal delivery of their presentation. And those two work together, but maybe one is more prioritized for you than the other. And then even for other faculty I've talked with, they have really looked at this and said, the most important thing were the supportive elements that I was having them put together. That's what I want them to walk away with and not lose, is the fact that they were able to put together supportive visual aids to support their presentation. And so that may mean putting together a PowerPoint presentation that is presented in a slightly different way. So identify what the most critical elements are for you, and then identify what is feasible. You also will want to look at the requirements in your assignment, and I typically break these down into content and delivery. It's a helpful heuristic for me. It may or may not work for you, but certainly these elements are probably showing up in your presentation requirements. So for content, we look at things like, what is the purpose? Who is the audience that they're speaking to? How do you want it organized? What format or genre? Is it an informative speech? Is it a persuasive speech? Is it a debate type speech? How many sources are you requiring be cited in the presentation? So on and so forth. And then also look at the delivery requirements. How long? What was the length? What were the requirements for verbal and nonverbal expression, for language choices, for visual aids, for perhaps polish, not saying right? Those kinds of things. And then look at which of those requirements best serve your new critical element, right? So which of these requirements really help you get at that, okay, they need to show that they have a well-organized presentation and that they deliver, right, orally. Okay, which requirements can I let go of and which requirements are most important? So basically what you are doing is reshaping and adjusting your assignment, which could look drastically different, and that is absolutely okay. Or it could be some small tweaks that help you shift to the online format. Basically, what I'm trying to get across here is that simply picking up your face-to-face presentation assignment and trying to plop it into your online course and try to replicate those learning outcomes probably isn't going to work really well and will most likely cause significant frustration for you and for the students. So you want to take a look at it, identify what's most critical, right, given our circumstances, and then what are the requirements that are best going to serve that purpose. So I do want to talk briefly about some logistics of having students record presentations, because I believe this is an option that many of you will choose. And so this applies to if you are one of the faculty who say, yes, absolutely, I want students to have that experience, right, of giving a presentation, of giving an oral presentation. That is the most critical element. And you can certainly do this and have them record it and upload it. Obviously, that's a different experience than presenting face-to-face, but fortunately, we can do this with relative ease of transition to an online format. And also, students actually do show in research on recorded presentations and online public speaking courses, they do show significant learning gains in doing it this way. So know that you are preserving important elements of that public speaking experience. So let's talk about what this means in terms of maximizing flexibility and accessibility. One thing to keep in mind is that many of our students are going to be working primarily from their mobile devices. And so what I like about this option is that having them record their presentation can be done from a mobile device, right? And our students are relatively familiar with recording video. What they may not be familiar with is how to upload that for a class, and then also how to make it professional and meet the standards that you want them to meet. We'll talk more about that in a moment. But recording from mobile devices, that certainly maximizes flexibility and accessibility. It minimizes that learning curve. However, no matter what choices you make here, you do want to make sure that you provide really simple and clear instructions. So if you are saying you can record from any device, make sure you tell them that, right? That you can record from your cell phone, you can record from your tablet, whatever the case might be. So options that are flexible and accessible for you as well as for students in terms of submitting that work. We have some good ones. One is that you can simply create an assignment in Canvas and you can ask them to upload that video file. So you would check the box that says upload media or upload file, and they can do this. It will probably be a .mov or a .mp4 file. You can also have students upload their video to YouTube. You can create a course YouTube channel and give them access to it, or you can just have them upload it to YouTube and have them share the link as a web URL. Again, they can do this right in Canvas assignment. When you create the assignment, you can make it an option that they're submitting a web URL, or they can email that link to you. The nice thing about that option is that if they have difficulty uploading to Canvas, because sometimes that can take some time depending on the size of the file, they can always send you that link from YouTube and as a backup, right? If they're having difficulty accessing Canvas for whatever reason. So that's a nice one. Also, our students and us are relatively familiar with YouTube for the most part. The third option is that you can actually have them record right in Canvas with Kaltura. That works as long as they have access, and also, you may want to include in your instructions that they may need to play around with which browser, and it should work on mobile devices. But whichever option you choose, again, just make sure that you provide clear and specific instructions for how to do it. And it's also okay to allow them a range of options. You can either upload it this way, or this way. So you can narrow those options, or you can allow them to upload it, again, to maximize flexibility. That choice is yours. I would not recommend that you limit them too much here, and also recommend that you expect questions, right? And that's okay. They're going to have questions about how to get their video to you. Make it the easiest path possible, or multiple paths to get that video to you. All right, fourth and finally, other tools. There are many other tools, and some that are quite sophisticated and really cool, that students can record presentations and post them for you and upload them for you. A few are GoReact and VoiceThread that you may have heard of. These are great tools. My recommendation to faculty right now is that if you are comfortable with these tools and you can explain them easily to your students, absolutely make them work for you. If this presents a steep learning curve for you and or your students, if you think that this is something that you would have to watch many tutorials on to really get up to speed in how to use it, that's not the type of learning curve that I would put on yourself at this time or on your students. These can be great when you have a lot of time for that course design. It's not going to detract from the overall, right, critical elements of your assignment to keep it simple at this time. Simply have students record from their mobile device and upload that video. That's going to still be able to get, like I said, that main learning experience that you're going for at this time and not present them with a steep learning curve in terms of technology. Okay, so other thoughts on recording presentations. I just put this here in terms of reorganizing and rearticulating your assignment. Think about emphasizing those critical requirements, both in terms of content and delivery. Keep your instructions clear and concise. Students are overwhelmed right now, as are we. They're getting a lot of information and they're dealing with all of their courses shifting to online at once. And so a lot of different subject matters and a lot of different professors. Any steps you can take to keep it very simple, short, concise, brief. Here's what we're doing. Here's the purpose. Right? And the most important part of this is that you show me that you have a purpose for your presentation and that it's well organized, and explain what that means. Critical delivery requirements, right? This is what your expectations are for those recorded elements. Always a good idea to give students a quick, easy checklist, again, bullet points on this. You can do this pretty easily. I always tell students that I'm not looking for high-end production. They should not have to spend any money on recording equipment in order to video themselves giving a presentation, nor should they have to, be really adept at iMovie or, software that may be out of their element at the current time. And so I give them a checklist that's are simple things like stand if you can, right? And try to have your camera at face level so that it's not giving you weird angles. Try to have a plain background and think about your audio surround. So I basically focus on how they present themselves, their visual surround, and their audio surround. And I just give them a few quick, easy expectations that they should be able to meet without too much trouble. So keep it simple, keep it concise. All right, other considerations. These questions come from conversations with faculty over the past couple weeks as we have been preparing to shift to online and now shifting to online. One of the questions I've had is, what about synchronous or live presentations? And this is the case where you would have had students presenting on certain dates at certain times, right, during class. I would suggest that you really consider very carefully flexibility and accessibility for that. I know that it sounds really cool to have students present and have their audience all logged on at the same time still watching those presentations. That's one of those experiences that is going to create accessibility issues for students and perhaps for yourself as well, for a myriad of reasons at this time. So I would think very carefully about that. And that ties into thinking about due dates. So I've worked with a few faculty who are completely redoing their presentation assignment because originally it was going to be, different students presenting on different dates. That's okay. You can push that date out, give them time to prepare, adjust, understand this new assignment, give them the same due date. That always works better in online environments, the more consistent that we can be. So again, just consider that flexibility and accessibility as you put those elements of the assignment together. Visual aids. So I spent time talking about students recording themselves giving a presentation. I didn't talk about visual aids. So If visual aids, again, those supports that we use to help aid our delivery, that support our presentation, if those are a really important part for you and a critical element of the learning experience, you have some options. One is that you could have students turn those aids in separate from the video recorded assignment. Two, you could just shift to a narrated PowerPoint. Again, that's software that's relatively, not a steep learning curve for students to understand that narration. There are great videos out there you could share with them on how to do narrated PowerPoints. Again, think about, does that fit your assignment? Like, is that the right thing for what you're trying to really emphasize here? Because we're really in a time when we're emphasizing only what's most important. And then beyond that, there's really great software. We have Camtasia. There's great software for doing like I'm doing now, where you video record yourself and you are using visual aids. If you're comfortable with that and able to explain it, and it's not that steep learning curve for your students, I would say go for that. Again, keep in mind accessibility. Are they going to have a computer, or can they do that from a mobile device? That's my main concern with those options. And then also, if you're not comfortable with that kind of software yourself, this is probably not the time to try to implement it with students. So making adjustments. Maybe I required visual aids, but I realize that is not the most important part, or that really is the most important part. So I'm going to shift to one of these options of having them turn it in separately or having them do a narrated PowerPoint. You do have options there. What about peer review? I've had this discussion with a couple of faculty as well. So there are great options for doing peer review with video recorded presentations. However, again, please keep in mind what we've been talking about throughout this time about maintaining the critical elements as well as flexibility and accessibility, and then just minimizing friction. So if you had a peer review process that you were going to use, let's say, for example, you were going to have students peer review the live presentations in face-to-face class, and you think about, okay, let's say you had 35 students in your class and they were going to do, over a series of a few class periods, they were going to review all 34 of their classmates. That maybe doesn't seem like much if it's broken up over a couple of weeks and they have to fill out a form on each or give a comment on each or whatever your process was. But when you put all of that online and you say, okay, you've uploaded your presentation and now you're going to review 34 of them online and provide peer review for that, that takes on a really different feel, right? And it takes on kind of its own assignment. So you just need to think about, does that really serve your purpose at this time? In a quote unquote normal semester, I am all for peer review of communication assignments, both speaking and writing. But at this time, I would just really encourage you to ask yourself, is it necessary? Is it critical? What do I lose if I don't integrate that part? Now, could you scale it down? Could you say, instead of reviewing everyone in the class, you're going to provide a review of 5 classmates? Absolutely, you can do that. You can use the peer review tool in Canvas. Again, I encourage you to do so if you're comfortable with it and you can easily explain it to students. However, know that it's absolutely okay to not do peer review at this time. And I would definitely discourage you from adding peer review if that wasn't part of your plan to begin with. So again, if you're feeling like, gosh, I'm not doing enough because they're not presenting live, I better add in some peer review, even though that wasn't part of my assignment. No, you don't have to do that, and it's not a good time to try to add elements to your course. It is a good time to shift, pare down, and focus on what is critical. And just bring yourself back to that question of, what are students going to gain from this? Is this going to be critical to their learning this semester, knowing that it's going to be a really weird semester? Okay, feedback and grading on recorded presentations. Again, I sound like a broken record here. I keep saying focus on those critical elements, but this holds for your feedback and grading. I know that many of you have a system that you use. We call it different things. I call it glow and grow. So here's something I highlight that really shined in your presentation. Here's part of your presentation that you could grow, right? Perhaps it's the way that you organize those main points. Perhaps it's something on your delivery. But I keep it broad and I keep it pretty high level. And especially in times like this, that's absolutely okay. Consider shifting your presentation assignment to pass fail. Now, I say this with the caveat that only if that is to a benefit of your students, and that's the most supportive move you could make for your students. So let's say that you had a really detailed rubric with a lot of explicit criteria originally for your assignment. And you're shifting now to this online environment. You're focusing only on what's most crucial. Could it be that it would benefit students to know that, okay, this is pass or fail. No longer am I, worried about all these different criteria and different points and different elements, because I'm probably also not getting the feedback. I'm not getting to practice. I'm not, getting together with my groups in class to talk about the presentation. So we're shifting this, right? Know that that's okay. That may or may not work for you. Just want you to know it's an option. And then also know that you have options for the ways that you provide feedback on video assignments. You can provide comments and or a rubric for the assignment. You can do a quick video response right in Canvas. You can click on the column there where you would do your feedback and it will record you giving a quick video response. You can do an audio only response. You can also ask students to do self-assessment. I present these to you as options, not as do all of the above. Make the choice, again, that's going to best support those critical elements, that is really going to drive home, here's what I was hoping you would learn from this. Here's the growth, right, that I was hoping you would see this semester, given everything that we're all going through. And I'm only going to focus on that in my feedback and grading. Okay. All right. I hope that is helpful for you. If you have any questions whatsoever, please don't hesitate to reach out. Again, this is from Communication Across the Curriculum. You can contact me, Stephanie Noriander, my colleague, Heather Bastian. We are happy to support you. Our work helps support putting that communication instruction online and complements and supplements the work that you're likely doing with CTL. We wish you all the best. Please let us know how we can support you.